Hey everybody, got a little time here between shows and just wanted to discuss with everyone um, just some personal spiritual experiences and worldview knowledge that I've been blessed to have learned from many of you and from my many experiences traveling around the world and traveling within myself, growing from mistakes, raising children, grandchildren, um, staying married 28 years, paying my own bills, and I just wanted to. Today, I had to woke up with a very deep realization that although I had reflected on it, and I always know this teaching, I just want to lend a hand to those who might be suffering through situations that just put you in a place where you're like, the world's not fair happening to me, or there can't be any good here. I just want to say that I had two specific things that happened to me in life that really, really looked like they were the worst things that could have possibly ever happened to me. I mean, really bad. I don't have to go into the details, but while I was going through it, the emotional and um, the emotional suffering and even the physical suffering that those situations caused, even though I was able to monitor them and make it through them, while I was there, even though I had spiritual knowledge and I had some years of experience of going through challenges in life, these two things had pushed me to the brink. Um, Looking back now, I can tell you that there was two specific situations that these turned out to be the biggest blessings in my life. And yet, while I was going through it, it was so hard, or sharing it with the people close to me who were going through it, it was so painful. There was no light except for my knowledge of that I had seen other things and been aware that really what's good or bad, I can't judge it in the present moment, and to just have a reliance on existence that what is ever happening to me is what's supposed to happen, and I can deal with it if it's given to me. I have the ability to deal with it. But I just want to reach out to those people, and I'm even reaching out to myself because one challenge ends, and isn't it beautiful? We get a few days rest, and the next window of opportunity is open for also a great challenging experience. And so don't worry if you're feeling too comfortable on the beach or in the forest or wherever, and your job and life is great. Don't worry. You're going to have a chance to experience something that you never thought about, never thought you could do, never thought you should have to go through, and you're going to have to go through it. But you have to know that it's all for the good. Not as in not all for the good. I really, again, I want to say I had two personal experiences that were so painful, whether emotionally or physically. There was no way I could see anything good is going to come. And now, looking back, I see those two experiences were I don't know if the best things that ever happened to me in my life, but two of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. Now, we're going to go into today. Many people have very different questions about spirituality, what path to choose, what to believe, what not to believe. Is there free will? Is everything predetermined? You know, the highest teacher I found he gave the best answer. He said, "The world, your things are neither predetermined nor is it free will." And the reality is, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because we have to focus. We can cut off a lot of the stuff. You know, again, I'll just rephrase it that so many of these things are overlapping, whether you're looking at some branch of Christianity or some branch of Islam or Judaism or Buddhism or Hinduism, or Zoroastrianism or atheism even. So many of these different branches and people who are speaking or agnostics or philosophers, so much is overlapping and crossing over, and actually the same ideas are being phrased with different possible words or different phraseology with different emphasis. But you can take the same two teachers, you can take the same two mystical Christian teachers who will take a concept and they will contradict each other, and it has to be like that because when it comes to the truth, everyone is just pointing you. If you are going to think that you're going to come to the truth by just listening to people's teachings or reading books, you are never ever going to get through the door because all of these things are only pointing, they are pointing you to only place where the truth is found, and that is within your own personal experience. When you actually decide and you really want the truth, you will be pointed by the right teachers. But you have to be open. It might not be from the teacher of the religion of your parents, or the spiritual path of your parents, or even the spiritual path that you're on now. Ask yourself always. I always be challenged to be confused. That's the only way you grow. Look for a deeper perspective. Say, wow, so many people are so afraid to get hit with all of a sudden they're going to hear something or read something that totally is apparent to them, that is so much deeper, there's so much more truth to that than where the things that they were holding on to now. But this is how you have to grow. But ultimately, the only thing that's going to take you to any place of really being able to take everything out of this human experience is going to be your own self knowledge. Because all of the paths, whether it's Hasidic teachings, from the Jewish Hasidic mystical teachings, or you can see how similar they are to many of the Buddhist Zen teachings. If you take Zen and Hasidism and Advaita Hinduism, you can get some things that are so close, and at the same time you can find someone who is an anti-Christian, pro-Jesus teacher. There's this new movement that are really working these days of people who they don't want to get sucked up into the institution of Christianity, which they find, if they dig through, is so far from the actual teachings of what Jesus was teaching that they just say, well, I'm not a Christian, I'm just a follower of Jesus, which is much more healthy because then you don't get caught into all the politics. But actually, you can see that all of the real deepest teachers are only telling you, listen, don't put yourself in these boxes of thinking, because I learned this by some teacher or I read this in some book, now I know what's going on. No, it's just as if you know, and that if is so big, it's a huge spiritual ego, you have no clue. You have absolutely no clue until you take on the challenge of understanding who you actually are beyond this whole body, mind, ego experience. And for that, you have to inquire into, you yourself must inquire and understand the workings of the mind and the ego, and you must be able to bathe in the essence of your being, which is when you have those moments that are beyond thinking, because thinking and the mind are finite and restricted and will never let you taste truth, because the truth is, we're speaking about infinite. Infinite can be tasted. It can be tasted. It can be experienced, but you can never describe it. So everyone, you're constantly just trying to go around spending all these hours reading and listening. If you're spending more hours reading and listening than you are with your own personal experience of knowing yourself, first you have to see the mind. You have to watch it, witness it, see what's happening to you, what's been happening to you all along, what you've been conditioned to. You have to empty yourself out like you're in the desert. You have to clean house from all concepts, all ideas. Otherwise, you're not going to learn how that you have been bribed by your intellect, bribes you by what you have learned in your childhood, what you've been learned from your society. You're not realizing that the conclusions you're wanting to find, you've been bribed. Your intellect and has been bribed to try to find those conclusions, and that's what's holding you back constantly from the real truth that will, at the end, what we're looking for is to be our natural, blissful state of being, which is the peace, which is that peace that there is nothing needed, everything is already here. But you have to finally, you yourself have to go through the experience until you can taste a few moments of understanding that real happiness is never anything that can be experienced externally to your own being. It's nothing that comes from the five senses. If you are not yet convinced that the real happiness, peace, love, and joy that you need are only within you and are already there, if you're convinced it's going to come from some other place, you must know that you are lost, completely lost on a shaky roller coaster. Because for every physical thing, of every sensation, from any of the five or six senses, or how many senses you want to say, everything is temporary. And if you would analyze how much temporary satisfaction you are going to get from something external to yourself, and how much anguish and wasted hours you used, if you would put your energy into the most direct path, which neither accepts or rejects any religion. The direct path is, I'll tell you a story about what the direct path actually is. The direct path is a famous story about, we have in these different countries big weddings. It could be any country where you have big weddings. You have the party of the bride and the groom, and so many people. And there was this, sometimes there's people in different places, they do this. They go and they just pretend like they're part of the wedding party. They start eating the food. They have the reception. Everybody's reading. They do a little dancing, some drinking. They do it, and then they leave. No one asked, if anyone just came along and they didn't know him. They would assume, oh, he's probably from the groom's family. I don't know him. And what would the groom's family assume? Oh, he's probably from the bride's family. I don't know who this is. That is what has happened to us with this thing called our ego. the mind and the ego, which is constantly afflicting us with all these external thoughts, keeping our mind running, not just even during the day, even when we're sleeping, we can't get restful sleep because our minds and the ego is constantly running around because no one has asked it, inquired into it. If someone at the wedding party would say, "Oh, really? You're from the bride's party? Who do you know exactly from the bride's party?" And then you would go with the person, "Here, show me." If you had a little, maybe you started feeling a little weary. This person didn't look like he fit into the wedding, and you said, "Show me, who are you?" And then all of a sudden you see, oh, he doesn't really belong here. If the spiritual awakening is when you start realizing that everything that society and all the religions and all of your own mind have been just keeping you in a cage, an ego cage of control. If you start awakening, you're like, and question it, you can directly question it by first watching it. Look for the source of the ego. Where is it? For this, you have to use the mind to inquire of the mind. Now, the other story about this, it's kind of like um, the thief who hires the policeman. He says, "Come on, I think there's a thief around here. You got to help me." He takes the policeman with him wherever he goes. So the mind really, sometimes you might be observing your thoughts. You might say, "Let's really look into this. What is the source? Is there really a me? Is there really all these things I'm getting told? Is this really the truth? Can I have some silence?" So the person who is the awareness, the witnessing, sometimes you'll see that policeman with the light, all of a sudden it's drifted off somewhere and it's again looking out, and you have to bring it back. You have to be a higher witness of the awareness. Slowly, if you do this. Now, I don't want anyone to believe me, but I'm telling, if no one has taken the time to do this, the mystical teaching a lot of different words. You could call it hitbonanut, is the Hebrew word for the Hasidic teaching of going beyond words and concepts and just into the deep place of being, where is the only place that you can experience actual divinity, which you actually realize is actually you. You are one with it. There is no, it's not something somewhere else. It's right here, right now. But for that to happen, you have to be right here, right now. And if we're honest with ourselves, we can see how many moments we are really not right here, right now. We are always either caught in the past, or we are looking for a future, or we're in ambition of achieving certain goals. We want certain things, or we want heaven or the next world or awards, and we're never going to get there. But if you take the direct path of every morning when you wake up, saying, "I am now going to, before I start letting my mind and ego continue to run the show, I am going to question it. I am going to inquire, where is its source? Where does it arise from? Where within me?" And every time an external thought comes, put it back. Watch it. You can't hit it over the head. Watch it. It will go down. Even if it's a strong emotion, let's say you wake up with anxiety or depression or fear or anger. If you watch it, begin to watch it and tell yourself, first of all, you say, "It's not real, but I am feeling the results of the ego mind controlling me, and it is having a physical effect on me. Let me just watch it. I've been through this before. when you start actually doing this on a daily basis and making this the emphasis of your spiritual journey of your life, as opposed to always trying to argue what's going on with the world with AI, what's going to happen with world wars, is there rebirth, is there reincarnation, is there heaven, is there this, is there that, is it predetermined, is it free will? That all, you're wasting your time, because as soon as you actually taste your own experience, your own truth, you will understand that none of these concepts will hold water, because it's truth is a paradox that always has everything included within it, and it's above it, and it's non-describe. You can it's indescribable, but it's so effective. It looks so simple. It is the hardest. It is the most direct teaching of self-inquiry. People could call it's not meditation. Meditation is something else. I'm not saying there's a lot of things that people can do before you actually get to the meat and potatoes of this direct path of self-inquiry. Some people might use yoga. Some people, exercise. Any exercise or any prayer or any mantra or so many things you can do. Breathing exercises will be the initial states of might help people cut out a lot of this extra energy that the mind ego has. Like if you really do intense exercise, you will see that the mind will calm down. If you will focus on your breathing, you'll see that the mind will calm down. But you have not gone inside yet. Doesn't matter how long you twist and turn your body as a yogi, you might have all these powers and everything. It's the truth is not about having these wild kundalini experiences or mystical experiences or visions or you're elated. That has nothing to do with being, and bliss is not like love and hatred with opposites. It's not like supreme joy and then anxiety and depression. It's being is just the natural state where there is no opposing. It's taking everything in as it is. It's transforming. It's elevating the love and the pain, um, the joy and the sadness, all realizing it's the same source, but it's you relate to it as in the same way as let come what comes, let go what goes. But because it's so direct, this path of taking time, now no one can actually tell you, even the best teachers, they can't tell you exactly what to do it. To sit in a yoga posture or how to read a prayer book, someone can tell you exactly how to do this. But to have your own self inquiry experience, it's like someone pointing to the moon with a finger. You're going to have to leave that finger. If you just look at a spiritual teacher and he's pointing you in the way and you get stuck on his finger, you're not going to be able to take. He's telling you, pointing you where you're going to have to go on the journey your own. But you won't make it if you keep. He can't tell you every right and left turn. It comes from experience. Many people describe it in so many different ways of how do you determine when these thoughts come up, how do you determine their origin? What do you do with them? How do you go into that silent space? And then what happens as you learn it, you can go into these pockets of bliss, whatever word you want to call it. There's all sorts of words, nirvana, samadhi, itbonanud. It's all these different words that different paths use. Don't get into their arguments. You can read a Buddhist and Hindu books over the ages, and you can see it's kind of almost like the Jewish Christian thing. Buddha came and he had a lot of things about how Hinduism has just got itself all tied up in all sorts of concepts, million ways. It's all confusing. It's about I'm not getting involved with that. I'm just getting involved with how to deal with the mind, this mind experience from his own experience. He's not getting involved with the whole other thing. And so Hindus had a very terrible reaction to Buddha because Buddha was getting a lot of students saying, "Hey, this guy's right," and a lot of the old way people were saying, "Hey, no, that's not right. We hate the Buddha." And then the Buddhists started saying stuff that was exaggerated against Hinduism. There is no self. There actually is no you. Where actually, if you see the later writings, you can see they're saying the exact things in different things. Now, when they speak about emptiness from the Buddhist books, and that's what they're speaking about as the actual self, not the small I, the big I in Hinduism. And the same thing happens with Christianity and Judaism. The Jews had a reaction to Christ, who was saying that I am the Father, I am one. Don't get caught in all the laws and everything. You have the temple is found only within the heart. And people are like, what? What's the Father? You and Him are one. What is it? He wasn't saying Him specifically was one. He was saying it's all one. You're also the Son. You're all the Father, the Son, the world, soul, God. It's all one. And then you can see in later books that Christianity started making its own rules. It started becoming the institution. It started being the thing that's persecuting people. And all of a sudden you have these Jewish Hasidic teachings that they are actually more Jesus-like than all of these than the Christian church. So don't get yourself caught up in what is happening to you when you're having this blissful experience. I can just tell you from experience from years of what happens to me is it could be minutes and minutes, and sometimes a whole hour goes by. I'm not able to control the thoughts. I just am aware watching them, and I'm not getting any peace. But many times, this watching, it helps you at least, first of all, you can at least see the illusion of what you're running after and why it's not right. You might not be able to fix it at that moment, but you can inquire and be in touch with your own being of what that reality is. Now, on a good day, it might take a certain amount of minutes to let all these situations subside, watch the mind, have it calm down, and then without really thinking about, all of a sudden you're a silent witness. There are no thoughts. There is no real personality. You're awake, and yet you're in this thing which you can't really describe, and you don't want to leave it. And then you actually take with you this peaceful liberation that really is there all the time. And then you remind yourself, you are liberated, you are free. Don't worry, you can be totally in the world without the world being in you. And it allows you to be back into the day, back relating to people, relating to things, but on such a different level where you can be a blessing and a light to the world, as opposed to you always trying to control the world, get over on the world, wrestle with the world. What can I tell you? So ask, go after the direct path. You can go on the direct path. This is the way to go. It is not a rejection or acceptance of any religion. Don't get caught up in the names. It does help if you can sincerely be reaching out to always yearning to have a higher finger, a deeper teacher that you think can lead you there. But don't get addicted to any teacher. because you will never make it. Let the highest teachers will only tell you. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know within yourself. They'll tell you, don't believe me. I want you to experience it. I don't want to control you. And if you find the highest teacher, you'll see he never tried to convince anyone of his truth. He never said he was a teacher, and he never said anyone was a disciple. Because we are all teachers and disciples. It is all one. But that doesn't help speaking about it. Experience. Spend time directly with your own self knowledge, self inquiry. This can seriously take you. Do it for the sake of the peace and the liberation of all the world. Yet the world, on one hand, it seems like it's out of control. So many new problems, so many wars, and so many conflicts. At the same time, there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new. It's the same dynamics. The best that you can do to heal all these situations is your own realization that you are free and act free and be free by realizing that your happiness is only your own internal experience. It's not something external. It won't come from external people or things or experiences, only from your internal experiences. Love you all. Bless you all with good things.